secretly have this great desire to learn about. We all want to know about it, but there seems to be so many mysteries veiled around it, so much mythology. And is it tantra, is it dark, what is it? Kundalini, the moment you say the word Kundalini, you're thinking gurus, and you're thinking of secrets and things like that. So today I'm going to attempt, for the first part of our talk, to clear out some of those cobwebs and clear up the muck so that you can see a bit more clearly about what Kundalini really was about, what it was meant to be, how it is practiced, and those kind of things. There's this energy that comes into the child, and you can call it cosmic consciousness, you can call it prana, you can call it so many things. In ancient times they used to call it vayu. This wind of consciousness from the cosmos comes in and gives the child, around the 49th day, the Tibetan Buddhists believe it's the 49th day, its identity. So it begins to understand itself. And there's a psychochemical equation which we'll talk about later that occurs. Then when the child is born and grows up and fully formed with spinal cord and brain and frontal cortex, that energy is not needed anymore for general survival. That energy is not needed anymore. So it goes and rests at the bottom of your spine, right? And it sits there, and it really, in most people, occasionally it gets activated when you're passionate, or you're seeing a beautiful sunset, or you're listening to bhajans and kirtans and you feel ecstatic, or you take hallucinogens and you have an experience. These are little spurts of that, coming and awakening a little bit. And when that happens, you feel, there's something more. There's something beyond this ordinary life that I can tap into. But how many of us actually go and pursue that? Right? The promise that the Indian yogis discovered, and you'll see that it's even more ancient than that, was that you can actually wake it up through a process, and the end result is an extremely super conscious bliss state, right? Which all of us have heard about, we've all thought about. This ultimate happiness, ananda, bliss, this state, and this is what the purpose of yoga is. But the Kundalini is that energy. So in the basic Hindu philosophy, there are three circles that represent the human body and the cosmos, right? And these three circles, the bottom circle is the earth component. We are our matter, we are animal, we are the base elements that make the nature of the universe come into being. This is also the potential consciousness, the potential within man to rise up, right? The human being sits in the middle. He is the self, this conscious being that sits in the middle. And that is represented by which part of the body? The heart, right? The heart. And that is the middle axis between earth and heaven. And the top part, which is consciousness, super consciousness, the ultimate state of universal consciousness. Imagine that I am conscious and aware of you, but imagine I am conscious and aware of everything. I am everything. That super state of consciousness is the third part, which is the bliss part. And here at the top, we call it super consciousness, super mind. These are the concepts of the top of the sphere, right? Now you have a slot to put all the things you hear about in Hinduism or philosophy into one of these three regions. And what they discovered was that if you imagine that you are a conduit, like a beam of light is going through you. Now in order to come to the earth, God connects to the earth, to beings, to matter, through the human consciousness. So it descends. Now one of the things Sri Aurobindo always says is that you can rise towards Kundalini using the old yogic techniques, or you can create the ground for consciousness to descend into the matter, into you. So both ways work. Either it comes down, which is, when you hear in religion things like surrender, submit to God, let Him come. That is coming down. That is grace coming down into the earth. When you lift up yourself and you reach for it, that is like yoga, like Kundalini yoga, like meditation, like techniques, like Tantra. then you're reaching upwards. And what happens when you reach upwards is that grace says, God says, this guy is really trying hard, let me help him. And it descends for you to come up again. So you reach and then you part the veil and you see the cosmic light. And what are they promising there? Let's look at that. So the Indian mind went really far with this, right? And they discovered an entire inner cosmos that they could map to help you open that beam of light from top to bottom, from bottom to top, right? And that is what we call Kundalini. This raising from the lowest part, the Muladhara, which is the connection to earth, right through to the top, which is the portal into super consciousness, right? So the human body, and this is why we do this yogic pose, is to tie and bind the body so that we can breathe and lift where Kundalini is dormant at the bottom, up through the chakras into the top part, right? So the journey is from ground, serpent rises, climbs up and gets to the top. And this is what you see when you break through at the top of your head. The 1,000-petal lotus. It is like supposed to be the most incredible vision you can imagine. It is, basically if you think about it, it is like standing in the middle of your brain and looking at the dome of your brain, and it's lit up with millions of photons. Can you imagine what that would be like? So you can see your brain, you can see cosmos of the universe, and you can see your inner body, all three at the same time. That's why it's called a 1,000-petal lotus. The human brain is quite an incredible idea. Here you have the spinal cord, and there are 33 vertebrae. You have this wonderful spinal cord that connects to the brain here, and not only does the spinal cord release different hormones along it as you trigger it. So if you trigger it in different ways, like say Kundalini or drugs, you will get different experiences of different parts of the spine, right? But at the top of the spine, at childbirth, during gestation, and at the coming of ecstasy moments, a chemical is released which goes into the same area as the pineal gland, right? Comes out of there, called metatonin, which is also known as, which has contained something called DMT, right? And DMT stands for dimethyltryptamine. It is, and anybody who has taken DMT directly experiences what?